top of the program, I talked about the time when the word Filipino was defined in a dictionary. Hindi masyadong maganda yung mga definition, and so I applaud this group because despite that, they wanted to brand their group and they wanted to call themselves Filipina Women's Network. President Marilee Mondejar, hello and welcome to Kababayan, LA.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
And one of the members, Leah, hello and welcome to the show as well.
Hello.
Sila po ay lumipad pa mula sa Bay Area to talk to us about inspiration for Filipina and for the women, yung mga kababayan po natin, ng mga kababaihan. Marilee, let's first talk about FWN. What was the reason behind the forming of this group?
Well, first of all, Filipino Women's Network is really about the reinvention of the Filipina-American woman. And there's the reason we founded this group was for a couple of reasons. One was when you Google the word Filipina 10 years ago, which is the year we were founded, you know, over 1 million would come up, and Filipina was about mail order brides, you know, domestic helpers, dating sites. Not that there's anything wrong, because there's a lot of Filipino women who've really improved their lives by marrying and meeting, you know, men in these sites. But it really did not represent about who we are. So we launched what we called Shaping the Filipina Image campaign. The other reason was, you know, before FWN, there was a Filipino woman who was really embattled. Her job was on the line, and then she called up. This was in San Francisco. She was accused of certain things in her, you know, it was very politically motivated. And then I saw her at a press conference. She was surrounded by men. Okay. And I said to myself, where are the women? Where are the Filipino women supporting her? Okay. And this is really our other campaign, which is about the Filipina Action Call.
All right, let's first talk about the branding. Leah, you know, you're a young Filipina, certainly attractive, smart as well. But when you say Filipina, the branding of the Filipina woman or Filipina in general, what should that be? How should we be known here in the U.S.?
Well, we should be known just as any other smart, intelligent woman, capable, and equal to men. Mm-hmm. And there are very different notions of Filipina, both here in the Philippines, and unfortunately, they're not always positive. So I think specifically, it doesn't just have to be about being Filipina, but being a woman and being a person of intelligence and deserving.
Right, I guess also being empowered, no?
Yes.
And when we say empowerment, that is where the call to action comes in, because we feel empowered when there's a group of us rather than just one of us. Let's first talk about the issues that you deal with when you talk about empowerment or call to action.
Well, we have a social justice campaign, and this is about addressing the issues of domestic violence at home. And in 2001, there was a Filipino woman who was murdered in front of her 2 children, and it took forever to solve the case. Mayor Willie Brown, who was the mayor of San Francisco then, created the Justice and Courage Oversight Committee, and I was appointed to that. And basically, the purpose of that committee was to look into the San Francisco citywide response, system-wide response to domestic violence. So it took a Filipino woman's death to actually address these issues, from the time a woman calls 911 to a police officer responding to that, and then arresting, you know, the stalker or the abuser, and so on, up to the domestic violence court and counseling.
So you're not just helping lay the groundwork for these issues, issues of domestic violence, human trafficking, and all that. You're also spreading awareness. And Leah, you were a part of the Vagina Monologues, which was produced by FWN up in the north, in the Bay Area, to talk about this, right? Tell us about your experience.
Yes, in 2006, I responded to FWN's call for auditions for the benefit performance of V-Days, the Vagina Monologues. I responded because I thought it would be a good experience and also a learning experience to learn more about domestic violence and the issues of power and control. We all hear about domestic violence and are familiar with it, but it's different when you're surrounded by people, survivors, and families of survivors. So this experience was very powerful because I was in contact with people whose lives were affected and impacted by the issue, and also through the monologues, we lived and breathed the stories of women worldwide through the performance. It was very powerful and healing as well.
Using violence to control women, not just Filipinas. But the problem I see here is, you know, us Filipina women or Filipinas, when we grow up, especially in the Philippines or in a Filipino household, as women, we are taught to be more submissive, to just bow to authority. How are you changing that?
It's really about teaching Filipino women the power of saying no. That when you say no to a man, that we mean no. And a lot of times, because of our culture, where we are very submissive, that the man is the head of the family and more superior to us.
The man is the king.
Yes. And that they take our no for granted. So during the rehearsals of the Vagina Monologues, we actually asked our cast members to attend an anti-domestic violence workshop.
Oh, wonderful.
Because we found, what we found though, that a lot of one of the barriers that Filipino women are not advancing in the workplace is because of issues of domestic violence, which they didn't think that they could talk about. They didn't think that they could actually seek help because of the cultural issues that we somehow were raised about that.
Yes, there's insecurity. You're taught to not, wash your dirty linen in public and all that. And that is why, despite that, we are so proud that there are Filipinas, there are Kababayans na nag-accomplish po ng maraming mga bagay at nasasucceed dito sa Amerika. When we return on the show, we're going to meet one of them and talk about the 100 most influential Filipino women in the U.S. Don't go away.
Ang Kababayan LA ay hatid sa